Hey fans, we're here with a list of some of the craziest and most forgettable moments in NFL history. With a history as long and as storied as the NFL, one would figure there would be some stories they'd be, well, tired of sharing. This list features some that may never go away, no matter how badly the league wants them to. But before we get to that, feel free to hit that like and subscribe button and stay up to date on our content and the many lists to follow. All right, shall we begin? The Super Bowl is known for being the biggest spectacle in all of professional sports. From its memorable commercials, buzzworthy media days, and then finally the game itself, which culminates the NFL season. The game to decide the season is indeed super. Sometimes lost in the shuffle of all the hoopla is the Super Bowl halftime show, which has featured a who's who of music and entertainment. But for every J-Lo and Shakira performance, there is unfortunately, and less notably, an Elvis Presto. That's right, Elvis Presto, a magician Elvis impersonator whose performance was sure to leave the king himself more than a little shook up. For this list, we're going to focus on Super Bowl 38 and a performance that will forever live in infamy that featured musical mega talent Janet Jackson lit up on stage alongside Justin Timberlake. The halftime performance was ready for its crescendo. Janet was giving the millions of viewers worldwide pop icon Justin Timberlake. The two stalwarts of music were already giving a memorable performance and were reaching its crescendo when the moment that would be known as Nipplegate happened. In the final moments of the act, Justin removed the article of clothing from Janet's top, exposing her pasted chest, and sent the world into frenzy. Let's just say the little stunt didn't go over well with the league, or parents, or, well, the FCC. This was before TiVo or DVR was popular, so if you didn't catch it live, you probably missed it. This little event didn't miss our list because the league has since cracked down on performances and has threatened to blacklist anyone who pulls a Janet and Justin. Moving on from Nipplegate and moving on to another controversial and forgettable incident that left a black mark on the league is Spygate. As they say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, and for Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, this old adage was put to the test. In the middle of the Patriots' blossoming dynasty was the first of many blemishes on the Patriots' bizarre extracurricular resume, where they were caught videotaping the Jets' coaching staff from their own sidelines during a game. Although the Patriots denied any intentional wrongdoing, the league would eventually fine Belichick $500,000 and dock the team a first-round draft pick, as well as slap them with a $250,000 fine. The Patriots would promise to honor the league's rules, but then, well, they'd do it again, this time to the Cincinnati Bengals in 2019. During a Week 14 game, the Patriots had a scout on hand to film a feature called Do Your Job. The Patriots covertly filmed the Bengals sideline. The league slapped the Patriots with fines in total of $1.1 million and docked them a 2021 third-round draft pick. Bill Belichick may go down as arguably the best coach in NFL history, but along with that prestige will also come a little tarnish, as he's been caught more than once with his hand in the cookie jar while chasing Lombardi trophies. Tails never fails. One of the oldest tricks in the book when it comes to picking a coin toss. In a game of chance, that's 50-50, but why do so many people call tails? In a game in 1998, Pittsburgh Steelers running back Jerome Bettis called tails, or so he thought. It was a game headed to overtime against the Detroit Lions, but tails failed him. Well, not exactly. The referee claimed to hear heads, then tails, and deferred to heads, and when the coin was flipped, it landed on, you guessed it, tails. The Lions would go on to win the game, and Jerome Bettis would continue to insist that he indeed called tails. Professional referees are known for making calls that most of us can't. Their astute decision-making and eagle eyes catch plays in live time better than most, and are asked to make calls in split decisions that can change the outcome of a play, or a game, or a season. So initially, most people that didn't hear the coin toss just assumed Bettis goofed and made the wrong call before switching it to tails. But after listening to the audio of the fated coin flip, it was found that Jerome Bettis called tails. So while he started off with heads, he ended with tails. I I think the playground would have given him tails, but the referee went with the former and may have cost the Steelers the game. Perhaps the real question here should be, why is a professional game still decided by something as arbitrary as a coin toss? Tossing it to our next entry is one of the craziest calls in NFL history involving the GOAT himself. Tom Brady has had one legendary career. His list of accolades and feats are longer than just about any players from any sport ever. But who remembers how the legend of the GOAT was started? Most Raider fans can tell you that the legend was started on a lie. Most Patriots fans will tell you that rules are rules. But even some rules are so bizarre that even after watching the play over and over and over again, it can still feel like the league got it wrong and the game wasn't decided on the field. Enter the tuck rule. During the divisional round of the 2012 playoffs, the Oakland Raiders were beating the then Cinderella story New England Patriots 13-10 late into the fourth quarter as Tom Brady, just out of field goal range, dropped back to pass. The rest would go down in infamy as Tom would be blindsided by a blitzing Charles Woodson, causing a fumble which would be recovered by the Raiders linebacker Greg Biekert and seal the game. So we thought, as the Raiders celebrating what was a game-clinching play to send them to the AFC title, the referees would review the call and reward the ball to the New England Patriots. More specifically, NFL Rule 3, Section 22, Article 2, Note 2. The referee's interpretation of the rule was that Tom was intending to pass the ball, and since his arm's momentum was going forward, indicated an intent to pass, that the ball was incomplete and not a fumble. A tough rule and play to swallow for the Raiders, who appeared to have the wind out of their sails when they went to lose the game in overtime. Another blow to Raider Nation and all the Patriots haters out there when Tom Brady himself admitted to Peyton Manning on his show, Peyton's Places, that he was pulling the ball down and it was indeed a fumble and that he thought the game was over. Ouch. In his day, Joe Namath embodied the NFL star athlete. After making the guarantee that he and his American Football League champion Jets would beat the overwhelming Super Bowl favorites, National Football League champion Baltimore Colts led by quintessential quarterback Johnny Unitas, Joe Namath defeated the Goliath to his David and became a hero and household name around the country. Following the victory, Joe Namath was as hot a ticket as they come, and on and off the field. As a matter of fact, the legend of Joe off the field began to surpass his feats on the field. His face was in commercials, on billboards, and even on the occasional movie, or movies, or TV shows, or his own TV show. Broadway Joe was really everywhere and anywhere, as most stars of his magnitude usually are, in a time where the superstar athlete really didn't have the emphasis on star like it does today. Not only was his face everywhere, but he also had some of the hottest faces around him. The list of people Joe Namath dated may be a countdown list all on its own, but for now, let's just say that beating the Colts wasn't the only time Joe's been lucky. His spot on our list features one of his unluckier days as Broadway Joe found himself on the sidelines during a game between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. While being interviewed by ESPN's Susie Colbert, a drunken Joe Namath became the punchline of one of the cringiest sideline interviews in television history as the Hall of Fame quarterback claimed he wanted to kiss her. Susie, being the professional she was, tried to bring the attention back to the game and away from the obviously drunken Joe. But Joe began true to his legendary womanizing persona, claiming he couldn't care less about what was happening on the field. The sobering moment for Joe is something he now reflects on as a wake-up call and him officially hitting rock bottom. For those who witnessed the sideline incident, many couldn't believe how far the superstar had fallen. Following the sideline interview debacle, Joe cleaned up his act and dropped the booze and was also said to have reconnected with his kids and loved ones. Way to go, Joe. Orenthal James Simpson. In the National Football League, no star has ever risen as high or fallen as far as the Hall of Fame athlete turned media pariah. In his playing days, OJ, better known as the Juice, was gifted beyond imagine and regarded as one of the top 3 running backs to ever play the sport. His 2,000-yard season is still recognized as one of the best rushing seasons of all time as he eclipsed the ever-elusive 2,000-yard mark in just 14 games. His 143.1 yards per game average still stands and is a mark that has never really been challenged in the 47 years since he set it. The running back spent most of his career as a Buffalo Bill, carrying that team on his back and rushing his way into football lore. After more forgettable days as a San Francisco 49er, O.J. hung up the cleats and picked up a microphone. Working as a color commentator for Monday Night Football from 1983 to 1985, O.J., like Joe Namath, had a magnetism that drew fans of sports and the big screen to him. When Hollywood came calling, O.J. answered, and the athlete was featured in several movies, from Roots to his more prominent roles in the Naked Gun franchise. Up until 1994, O.J. Simpson was one of the faces of the NFL, frequently appearing on the sidelines and on the networks that broadcasted its games. He was in demand in Hollywood and known as one of the most liked athletes of all time. O.J.'s star would come crashing down on June 12th. After reports of his ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ronald Goldman were found brutally murdered in Brentwood, California. Although the evidence was substantial against the athlete-turned-actor, O.J. would somehow beat the case, leaving many unsettled with the verdict, to say the least. O.J., once loved, was now a free man, although guilty in the eyes of many fans who once adored him. The NFL stopped featuring O.J. on any of its networks, and whenever any of his records were mentioned, it was in the same breaths as the murders of his ex-wife and Ronald Goldman. In 2002, after O.J. Simpson visited the USC Trojans practice, signing autographs, interacting with players, and taking pictures with players and fans, the backlash was so brutal that O.J. was blacklisted. If you hear O.J. Simpson's name mentioned now, it's usually associated with a graphic of his accomplishment and no further mention of his deeds on the field. O.J., simply put, is one athlete the NFL is trying their hardest to forget, and a legend that has turned into its biggest cautionary tale. Well, that concludes our list. For as long as the NFL has been racing towards being America's favorite sport, it has also had its speed bumps and hurdles. As crazy as some of these moments are, there were simply too many to mention, but we think we covered most of the crazy. If we missed anything, be sure to let us know down in the comments, and until next time, sports fans, have an awesome day.